Okay, so here's the next video on MLA formatting. I'm going to look at exactly what your essays are going to look like in my English class. So I'm not going to talk about specifics of citing. I am going to talk about that in another video, but right now I'm just going to talk about how your essay is going to physically look. So let's look at the very first page. You can have a running header, I will say that right now, that has your last name and page number on it, even on the first page. I prefer you not to, but if you want to, you can. The very first page is the first page of your essay. You don't have a report cover like you might have in other classes. You're going to have your full name, your course code with the section number, so make sure that you get that information from your teacher, my name, and then you're going to have the date that you handed your essay in or the due date of the essay. And notice that it is written out fully. It's not written, 10/12/2012 or, OCT dot 12, 2012. It is written out fully. So you need to have your specific information put here. It is single spaced. I like to see it single spaced here. Your title can be in bold, like I have here, but it is definitely in the center of the page. You can underline it. You can even italicize it if you want. But it cannot be a different kind of font than the rest of your work, and it can't be bigger than the rest of your work. The craziest you can get here is bold and italicize and underline, or maybe even all three if you're feeling especially crazy. The very first line of your introduction is going to be indented 5 spaces. Okay, you're going to hit that tab key, and you're only going to do that for your introduction, not at the very beginning of every single paragraph thereafter. These are what we call parenthetical references in MLA. It's also called in-body or in-text citations. So they're in parentheses, in brackets. This is telling me that I got this information from this website or this source. So whether I have quoted it directly or whether I have read it and then just taken the basic ideas, if it's not my idea, I have to cite the source. If I don't do that, it's plagiarism, and that is very, very serious. Make sure that you cite it properly. Now here, I've underlined it. In other places, you can just simply italicize. MLA tends to shift a little bit from year to year to year in what's newly acceptable. Whether you want to underline the database or italicize it, that's what you can do. But again, it's not the full URL of the web page. So these are all different types. 2 web pages in particular, and this one's a book where it's just the last name and a page number of wherever you got the information. Other things you need to know about MLA formatting. Your work needs to be double-spaced. In some word processing programs, it double spaces it automatically for you. In others, you have to do it. So I like to see this part up here, single spaced. Again, if you want to double space it, that's fine. Go right ahead and do that. It saves you a little bit of space on paper though, if you single space that. But everything else, the body of your essay needs to be double spaced. I'm always amazed every year at the number of students who are so very good on the computer, but their knowledge of what all the buttons do on a word processing program, for instance, completely confounds them. And they don't understand that you don't have to hit enter at the end of, or enter at the end of every line to make your work double spaced. Please, please, please don't do that. You highlight everything and then you go to the line and spacing. You can do that through editing. It's very, very simple to do. If you don't know how to do it, ask somebody or go to the help section of your word processing program and look up double spacing your work. and it'll tell you how to do that. But don't hit enter, enter at the end of every line, because if you have to take out work or adjust it or add in stuff, it's going to mess everything else up. And when you're getting marks for formatting from me on your essay, you're going to completely lose out on easy marks to get. So make sure it's double spaced. You also need to make sure that the type or the font that you use is normal. Arial, Times New Roman, there are so many ones that are just normal, but don't use a chalk font or something really unprofessional like Comic Sans or bubble font. That's not appropriate for a formal essay. You also need to make sure it's about 12 point, which is the normal size font. Now with different fonts, it's some 11 point font might be the same size physically as a 12 or a 13 point font in something else, just as long as it's a normal size. We don't want it to be too small, but we certainly don't want it to be too big either. For every page after page 1, your page looks a little bit different. You're going to have your last name and the page number in the top right-hand corner of every page. And I say here after the first page, it looks like this, but again, if you want to have it running on every single page, including the first page, that's fine. Notice I don't have the number sign. Notice I don't, or what you guys would call hashtag, or PG, or PG dot, or page number and hashtag. It's just last name and the number. Okay, so it's carrying on with all of that. Notice again, I still have all of my parenthetical references tucked within the body of my essay. The very last page, and it must be a separate page altogether. It doesn't matter how many words you have on, let's say this was page 5, let's say you just had one paragraph. It doesn't matter. Your very last separate page needs to be your works cited page. Again, you can bold that, underline it, italicize it, but you can't make that really much different than any other title. I'm going to show you exactly how to do all the specifics of this in another online tutorial. But this is how your works cited page is going to look physically. You can have it single spaced or double spaced. That doesn't matter to me. Single spaced is nicer. But notice that the first line comes out to the margin and every line thereafter gets indented 5 spaces. Okay? So in this case, you do have to hit enter so that it can go on to the next line. Okay? Your works cited is a list of all the sources you're going to use in you had used in your essay. So they're listed in alphabetical order according to the very first entry. So Ted Barnes and Sylvia Abel wrote this particular article. Let's just pretend that I used it. Barnes, comma, Ted, B. This one didn't have an author, so it just starts with the title of the article, Moths, and this is a book from Gene Smith. Okay, so we have B and M and S, okay? Here's the thing, here's the list of things that you're going to be marked on, that I'm going to be marking you on. So I'm going to be looking at MLA formatting. You're going to have to make sure that you have your title info in the top left. You're going to have title and page numbers in the top right of every page. Everything is double spaced, it's 12 point, normal font. The in-text, in-body, or parenthetical reference citations is what they're really called, are correct. And you also have a works cited page. These last 2 things are of paramount importance when we're talking about MLA. Without those 2 things, if you don't have one or the other, I'm not marking your essay. You will put in the citations. I'll hand it back. You will put in the citations, and if you don't do that, you're going to get 0 because in either way, it's considered plagiarism. Looking at content, I'm going to look at grammar and spelling and all of those nice, fun writing conventions. Okay, so make sure you have periods at the end of sentences. Make sure you don't have run-on sentences. Make sure you capitalize words that should be capitalized and you're not just capitalizing words arbitrarily. Make sure that your introduction is correct. In the first video of Essay How To, it talks about how to make that important introduction. It also talks in that same video about conclusion, how to make one. I want to see if I have told you to give me a 500 to 750 word essay. Don't give me something that's 350 words and assume that it's enough, because it's not, and you're going to lose marks on that. The biggest component of the content is going to be the arguments and those body paragraphs. How well are they organized? Have you clearly and succinctly said what you need to say? Is the research well placed if it is a research essay? And in this case, it's going to be. You need to make sure that all of your points go back to your thesis statement. Does everything tie in together? Does everything answer that thesis? Does your main point answer your thesis? And do your supporting arguments match your main point? Also, and this is something I'm seeing more and more, it needs to be objective. You can't be subjective when you're writing an essay. So you can't say, I think, I feel, even if it's a persuasive essay, and it is what you think and you feel. And don't say in the course of your essay, my first point is, or the next point I'm going to make is, or if you want to read ahead, and if you believe that. Those are very subjective words. I need you to be objective. It is known. It is thought that. Those are good examples of being objective in objective language. The next video you need to check out is this MLA citation machine. So I'm going to show you exactly how to use the citation machine. So that takes into account how this page is going to look, all the specific information, and the parenthetical references within the course of your essay.